living longer, living healthier, living better than ever before. Welcome to Mountain Pacific's Healthy Living for Life, a weekly series that gives you the information, education, and expert insight you need to become an active participant in today's ever-changing healthcare climate. Here now is today's program host.
From the whispering of the wind rattling fall leaves to the voices of loved ones who have since passed, distinct sounds are often ingrained in our minds forever. Hearing is one of our most important senses, and without it, our memories and daily living activities would be radically different. Today, we're going to talk about hearing loss and common issues that can happen anytime. Welcome to Healthy Living for Life, a show dedicated to helping you do just that. I'm Lisa Sather, your host. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Joining us today to talk about hearing loss and some common hearing issues is Dr. Hillary Carter of Comprehensive Hearing Services. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Carter.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, excellent. So let's first start our discussion today talking about some of the different types of hearing loss that can occur as we age. And I read that presbycusis is one of the most common types. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Presbycusis is a natural aging process of hearing loss. So as we get older, we have little hair cells in our inner ears, and those begin to die off or are just not working as well as they did at one point in time. Those help send the sound up to our brain to understand what's being said. So as those die off, our brain is not quite able to fill in those gaps or understand as much as it did at one point in time. So it's kind of a lack of clarity is what people tend to notice.
Okay. So talk about ear infections. So can an ear infection tend to cause hearing loss?
They can, and actually, interestingly enough, ear infections do tend to affect older adults as well as children. An ear infection is when there's fluid buildup on the other side of the eardrum, so in the middle portion of the ear. And when that fluid is there, the sound is reduced and not sounding as good, and it can be a sudden change. And speaking of sudden changes, anytime there is a sudden change of hearing, and especially if it's in one ear, you absolutely want to get that checked out. There can be some permanent damage that can occur, and there can be a window of time where we need to have some treatment taken place. So any sudden changes of hearing is absolutely something that needs to be checked.
Okay, good. You know, that reminds me also of a condition called swimmer's ear. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and
Sure.
hearing loss potentially?
Swimmer's ear is something is actually affecting the other side of the eardrum. So that's the outer portion of the ear where we can actually see problems. And it's generally like a yeast or a fungal infection that occurs in that outer portion of the ear to too much moisture. And again, is a treatable condition as well. And typically has quite a bit of pain with it. So of course, if there's pain there, you want to talk to your physician about that.
So how about this feeling of your ear feeling full? Can you elaborate a little bit about that and what causes that?
So it could be from fluid, it could be a variety of things that could give you that fullness feeling. It is definitely something to have evaluated because there are a variety of conditions that can cause ear fullness or pressure feeling. Sometimes it can be eustachian tube, sometimes it's that outer ear, sometimes the middle ear, but it is something that an evaluation would be necessary to kind of figure out exactly what's causing that fullness in the ears.
What about wax buildup? You know, some folks talk about that, and can that cause issues?
Absolutely. Of course, we always hope when we're having a hearing problem that maybe it is a wax problem because it's very easily treatable, and we can do miraculous things by removing that wax and helping the hearing. But yes, it can, and that's something, again, easily seen and treatable as well.
Okay. Now talk about tinnitus. What is this, and what causes it, and what are its characteristics?
So tinnitus is really any sound that does not originate from outside of us. So it can be a ringing, it can be a buzzing. Some people will experience a cricket sound or music sound. There's actually a variety of noises that people will notice. Typically it does come with hearing loss. So a lot of people that have hearing loss have tinnitus. Sometimes people think that tinnitus is causing the hearing loss. It's actually the other way around. But it is a condition that can indicate sometimes some other problems as well, but typically is a sign of hearing loss.
Okay. So are there any other types of hearing loss that people might want to learn about?
I think one other important one to talk about is probably noise-induced hearing loss. And that's from excessive noise exposure over the years. Noise-induced hearing loss is from a cumulative effect. So the more noise you're exposed to, the more hearing loss you could potentially have. It does occur right away though too. It's not something that if you had a lot of noise exposure when you're 20, it's not necessarily causing your hearing loss when you're 60. It can have an effect, but that hearing loss is actually pretty sudden or soon after that noise exposure when it occurs. So one of the important things about that is protect your hearing, because that is absolutely one that is preventable. So the more you're protecting it, the more you're preventing future hearing loss too.
Yes, of course. And how about ruptured eardrums?
So a ruptured eardrum would be a hole in the tympanic membrane or in the eardrum. It could be caused from an infection. That buildup of fluid needs to release, so it might be from that. It could be from a Q-tip use or something along those lines. So you really don't want to be sticking anything smaller than your elbow in your ear canal.
Yes.
And that is something that would need to be looked at and treated. A lot of times they will heal on their own, but can cause hearing loss at the time. And if it's not healing, it is something that can be, again, fixed medically. So.
Okay, good. How about airplanes? And, you know, folks talk about their ears popping when they're in an airplane or at high elevations. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So in our ears, in our middle ear, we have what's called the eustachian tube, which is the part that equalizes the pressure in our ear. So when we go up in elevations and we hear that popping sound, it's what equalizes the pressure. It allows for air to flow into the middle ear from, it's actually the back of our throat, kind of the back of the nose. If that's plugged up or the pressure changes too quickly, then you'll definitely get more of that big popping sound from that pressure change.
Okay, and maybe just in a couple of sentences, what's kind of the best way to pop your ears, you know, in an airplane or in a situation like that?
I think the best thing is definitely kind of opening and moving your jaw. Chewing gum can be an amazing thing, and just swallowing and keeping some movement in that nose or the back of the throat and the nose area as well to try and clear that out.
Okay, perfect. Well, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back to talk with you in just a second. So stay tuned to learn more about hearing loss and what can be done to correct it. We'll be right back.